Hi, thanks so much for being willing to make a square for Ethan and Kili's baby quilt. In your kit, you have received a piece of paper with numbers on it and a diagram like this, and a piece of muslin fabric like this. What I'd like you to do with this piece of fabric is cut two squares that are about 4.5 inches. So you'll have two squares like this. And with these, we're going to cut these in half diagonally. I use a rotary cutter, but you can use scissors as well. So I'm just going to cut these in half diagonally. So now I've got 4 triangles. Those are going to be the first pieces that we use along with your center square piece. Now the center square piece is the piece that is the I Spy part of the quilt, and it's one that when you say, oh, I spy a sun, then the child can find a sun, or whatever you choose to put in the middle there that you think would be interesting. I have some more of that fabric that's in this one, and I want to show you how you can preview what you are going to put in that middle square so that you'll know what you get. That's going to go on top of the center square here. So it's going to be 3.5 inches finished. So I cut out a 3.5 inch square here, and I'm going to lay it on my fabric and see what looks good in that square. Since I have already done a sun, I think I will try a moon on this one. So in order to do that moon, I'm going to need this amount of fabric plus 1/4 inch all the way around. One of the nice things about paper piecing is you don't have to be exact. So I'm just going to chunk out a piece here. I'm not even going to worry about whether it's square or not. This will work just fine for me. So I'm going to line this up so on the wrong side, on the plain side of this pattern. Here's the side with the numbers on it and the diagram, and here's the plain side. In order to see where to place this, I need to hold this up either to a light source, and that can be an actual light, it could be on the window, it could be on an operating television screen or computer screen. And I'm going to line this up so that my featured piece is right in the middle of that number 1. So that's the first thing you need to do. Now that I've got that lined up and placed it just where I want it, I'm going to pin it in place to hold it. And you can see it's on the reverse side of this piece of paper. It's on the plain side. So that I know where to place my next piece, my muslin triangle, I'm going to fold on the line between numbers 1 and number 2. I'm going to fold that down. Then I'm going to use my rotary cutter again. And again, if you don't have a rotary cutter, don't worry. Just eyeball it. You'll cut 1/4 inch seam there so that your fabric sticks out 1/4 inch larger than where I folded. I'm also going to do that on the line between numbers 1 and number 3. You will eventually do this all around the block. Now you are ready to place your triangle at the top of your square. Line it up with that cut edge that you just made. And you'll want to pin that into place so that you're ready to stitch that into position. So here's what that looks like. You're ready to go. You're going to lay this down on your machine next to the feed dogs, and you're going to stitch on this side. You're going to stitch right on that line. Okay? So I'm going to do that now. I've stitched on the line between numbers 2 and number 1. Here's what it looks like from the side where I pinned. I'm going to take out my pins and open that up and finger press it into place. Okay, so we've got our first seam done, and we're well underway with our square. Okay, next I am going to lay my second triangle at the other side of the moon here. Line it up with the edge, just like we did with the first piece and second piece. And now here's number 3 going into place. I'm going to flip it over, stitch on that line, and flip it back. And then I'm going to repeat that with number 4 and number 5. Before I stitch number 4 and 5, again, I'm going to do that trimming that we did on the first couple, folding back on the line between number 4 and 1 and number 5 and 1, and trim that to 1/4 of an inch. When you stitch, back stitch at the beginning and end of each of your seams, like I did here. And there's no need to trim those threads when you end. You can leave them long. That's another really cool thing about paper piecing, is those are not going to show, so you don't need to worry about it. Okay, now I'm ready to stitch number 4 and number 5. Okay, I've got all 4 of those pieces sewn on. So now I put it to the ironing board and press it into place. And I'm ready to trim my seams again so that I'll know where to place the next pieces, number 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I'm going to fold on the line between number 6 and number 1. Fold that down towards the side that I've been sewing on, the side with the numbers and the diagram. I'm going to go ahead and trim that, and I'm going to do that to each of the 4 sides, so then I'll know where to put the next set of triangles. Those triangles are going to be cut from pieces of fabric that you will choose, and it is a 5-inch square this time. I've cut 2 5-inch squares, and I'm again going to cut those in half diagonally so that I will have the 4 triangles that will make up the finished triangles on this square. I'm going to sew them into place just like I've been doing with the muslin pieces, and that's it. You press it back and you've done it. I want you to leave the paper and not trim the last seams that you sew. Just leave them in place, and I will trim those up for you. And I would appreciate it if you leave the paper in also. So your finished piece will have a back that looks like this. It'll look pretty much like what you got in the mail, except that you will have stitching lines on it, because that will help me piece the whole quilt together. Thanks so much. Have fun. Let me know if you have any questions. Happy creating.